welcome back to the channel. My name is Rosie. If this is your first time here, thank you for being here. If this is not your first time here, thank you for coming back to listen to me talk. So today I want to talk about making an album. I'm sure you've heard me talk about this before if you know me at all or follow me on Instagram or TikTok or any of those fun places. But earlier this year, on January 8th to be exact, I released my debut album. And the really cool part of my debut album is that I wrote it, recorded it, mixed it, produced it, distributed it myself. So the only thing that I passed along to somebody else was the mastering process. And while it was definitely a ton of work, which I'm going to talk about all of the work that went into it today, it was also very, very doable if you have knowledge of mixing and recording. So basically, the main thing I want you to take away from this video is that if you want to release a single or an EP or an album, but you feel like you don't know enough to do it, just go ahead and do it, because I learned so much from this process, and I'm going to try to help you with some of that knowledge today. But also, you're just going to figure out everything you don't know along the way, and then you're going to be able to release more music more easily. See how this helps you out if you just go for it? My album is called The How and the Why. I know, it was just so conveniently sitting over there. Isn't that amazing? This is what it looks like. I'm very proud of it. Very proud of this case and everything. I also designed all this myself. No big deal. Just gonna put it right there for some little promo. So I'm gonna go into all the steps that you kind of need to think about when you're going in to record an album, all the steps that I went through. So I'm gonna group all of the different tasks I have come up with and written down into kind of different phases of the album process. So the first phase is really just the setup phase. So obviously, the first thing you need to do is write the music. Kind of important. The second step that I did was I arranged the music. So I think this is especially important if you are not tracking your album live, and if you are multi-tracking most of it yourself, which is what I did. Making sure I kind of knew what parts I wanted before I went in to actually record streamlined my process a lot and made the actual recording much less stressful and annoying. I didn't arrange it out on staff paper or anything. I just kind of arranged the songs out in this notebook, actually, so I'm going to show you kind of what they look like. So here, I'll show you an example in here for Lullaby, my first song on the album. So obviously it's not like a really, really nicely written out arrangement, but I just detailed every single time a new element was added or something changed, just to keep it really, really clear of what I needed. And I ended up adding other elements on top of this later, but this gave me a really, really good idea of the outline for it. So after I arranged all of my songs, more or less knew exactly what instruments I wanted on every song, what harmonies, things like that, I decided to set up all my Logic files. Logic was the DAW that I used for recording and mixing and everything on the album. And so what I mean by setting up my Logic files is I made a project for every single song, and I recorded all of them to a click. So I set the metronome. If there's any metronome like speed up or slow downs, I programmed those in, so that way when I went in to record, then I could just record and again not have to worry about any of that kind of setup stuff. Setting up the Logic files really doesn't take that long if you know exactly how long certain sections are and things like that, but it saves you so much time in the studio or your makeshift studio if you're not fancy and don't have a studio. And after that setup, that kind of concludes the setup portion for your album, and then it's on to recording. All right, cool. Welcome to the recording stage. So obviously this stage is pretty important. You just need to record all of the things that you need for your album. But it definitely is important what order you record in. I advise, like many other people who record music, laying down the thing that's gonna be the most solid, the most helpful for you to record over the top of. So if you have drum set, often that's a great thing to record first. For me, I was not playing the drum set parts on the album. My boyfriend did that. That was the only instrument I didn't record myself. I guess I should be talking into this. So I decided to go ahead and record the vibraphone first because that instrument was on every single tune and definitely was kind of the backbone of all those tunes. So it was really important to me to get a super, super clear sound for the vibraphone since that was really the heart and soul of this entire album. So instead of going to like a fancy studio and paying a ton of money to rent out that space, I went to my parents' rental house that they owned that was currently vacant, and I made myself the closest thing I could get to a nice little dead studio room. I put up a ton of sound blankets, covered up the window that was in that room to make sure I didn't have any sound coming in from the street, pushed the vibraphone back into that dead little corner, and it really did the job. Really, it doesn't have to be a super fancy room. You just have to make it as dead as possible so that you can get the best sound possible. After I recorded vibraphone, then I went on to record drum set, and again, we recorded that in my boyfriend's parents' living room because it was an okay space to do that and just the space we had. And then I recorded vocals and all the harmonies and all the extra percussion and the found sounds in this room right here. So if you take anything away from this, you don't need to have the perfect space. Obviously, it makes recording a lot easier if you have a great room to record in, but definitely don't let that hold you back from creating an album or an EP or a single. There's a lot you can do in the editing process to still make it sound pretty damn good. So after you record everything, obviously then it's on to the mixing process. Hello, welcome to my mixing desk. I've never really showed you guys this before, but this is the space where I did all of the mixing for the album. It didn't look this nice when I was doing the mixing. I've got it figured out a little bit better now. So there's not really much to be said as far as how to do your mixing process. That's going to be so different depending on what you recorded and what kind of music you are playing and all those sorts of things. But for me, my mixing process took quite a few months, and if you are not a professional at it, make sure to give yourself times and don't put yourself on too tight of a deadline because there's a lot to learn. And trust me, if you're doing a full album, you'll mix the first couple songs, think they sound good, mix the rest of the album, and then go back to your earlier ones and think they sound kind of shitty because you did not know what you were doing the first couple ones. But I definitely advise not mixing on just headphones. Get yourself a couple of speakers. These ones, I can't remember what they are, but they're very, very standard for the music industry, and they weren't that expensive. So they're a great addition to your home studio if you want to start producing your own music. So after the mixing stage, you go into the mastering stage. And the mastering, I decided to outsource to somebody else. Why did I do this? Because mastering has a lot of very, very detail-oriented things that I am not trained in, and it's a lot harder to learn from the internet than it is to learn how to mix well. Maybe one day I will feel better about mastering my own works. I'm just not there yet. So I decided that I was going to spend some money on this portion of the CD for my sanity, really. Mastering can definitely get expensive. So for those of you interested in the cost, I ended up paying around $800 to get my whole album mastered. From what I know about mastering and my research, that's a pretty standard amount. You can definitely get it cheaper, don't get me wrong, don't take that as a baseline, but that's what I got for a 10-song album with somebody that I thought did a really, really quality job. Since I saved so much money using all of my own gear, my own spaces, and my own skill set to do the rest of the album, I didn't feel too bad about spending the money there because I had been saving for that and planning for that. And the interesting thing about the mastering process is it actually really doesn't take that long when it's somebody that knows what they're doing. So from the time I got in touch with the mastering engineer that I ended up using from the time I actually got all of my mastered tracks back, it was probably only about a week and a half total, and the only reason it took that long was because I had some edits that I wanted made. And the mastering process includes more than just sending off your songs and getting one version of them back that's mastered. I didn't realize this when I was making the album, but mastering also includes them making sure that it's fit for all the platforms and versions. What is that word I am looking for? Formats, that's the word. And all the formats that you are sending it to. So for instance, I needed to get it mastered for digital distribution like Spotify and Pandora and Apple Music and those kinds of things, but I also needed to get it mastered in a specific track for it going to be printed to CD. So that's definitely something to take into account. You're going to have a little bit of an extra cost depending on if you're just doing digital distribution or if you're also doing things like CDs and vinyl. So now we move on to the next and last major step of producing an album, EP, or any kind of music you're releasing. And this last very important step I'm talking about is distribution and promotion. So what does distributing mean? That means literally getting it out onto all of the platforms that you want people to be able to stream your music on. That means Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, if you want to put up your music on Bandcamp, that's a separate thing. If you want to put your music on YouTube, that's a separate thing. What else? Where could you put it? There's so many places you can put your music. And if you're an independent artist like myself, meaning you're not signed to a label or anything, you have to do that yourself. The easiest way to do it is to go through a distribution platform, something like CD Baby or DistroKid. I've heard great things about both, but I ended up using CD Baby because I personally had more friends that had used it, so I had a better understanding of how it worked. They make it really, really simple for you. You just have to fill out all of your information about your album, and you also have to upload things like cover art and things like that. So I also designed my own cover art. That is definitely a thing you could hire out if you feel like you are not visually artistically talented. And I also had to design everything that you see on this packaging as well. With CD Baby, they make the CDs for you as well if you would like, and they give you templates so that you're making it the right size, and they're very strict about how they want the templates. So you don't have to worry about that if you feel like you don't know what's happening, because I didn't most of the time. And somehow I still did it. But you just go ahead and upload the music. They recommend uploading the music 2 weeks before you want it to go live. That just gives it plenty of time to be uploaded correctly and all that good stuff. People often will upload a week before and have no trouble with it going live on the date that they said they want it to. But it's good to give it more time just in case. And then it's obviously really, really important to market your music. So that means creating material for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, whatever kind of social media platforms you're on, and just sharing the crap out of your stuff. CD Baby does not do any marketing for you. They give you some tools that can help you market, like setting up pre-save links and things like that. But that is really on you, and my gosh, it is so much work. So definitely take that into account. Great way to market your CD is if you take behind the scenes footage of you making your music or your album the whole way through, and then you have fun things to share when it comes time to get people hyped about it. And that's really how you make an album. Basically, what it comes down to is just a lot of time and a lot of hard work and a lot of screwing up and a lot of figuring it out. I know that there's so many places that I could have gone into more detail to, and so if this video was interesting to you and there's something you want to know more about, please go ahead and comment down below. Tell me what you would like me to film a video about. I'd be happy to talk about it and share my experience. Like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm just really passionate about people going ahead and making their music and not waiting until they have the perfect gear, the perfect mixing setup, the perfect set of mixing and recording skills. You're not going to get better at it unless you do it. So just go ahead and do it. I promise if I figured it out, you're going to be able to figure it out too. So please make sure to go and love that like button. It lets me know that you like this video. Go ahead and comment down below. Tell me what you liked about this video. Tell me what you didn't like about this video, or what do you want to learn more about. And if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe. I really want to grow this channel a little bit more, and I just want you to be part of the journey. So I have nothing else to say today, so therefore I am done. Thank you. I don't know how to end. Okay, goodbye. In this moonlight, my fingertips have frostbite from staring at the star bright overhead and grabbing darkness by its threads, convincing it to stay.